Hello, welcome back to Far Horizons Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're continuing on with Suzerain. So last time we left off, we had a conversation with our family discussing the personal fallout from the assassination attempt at our inauguration, as well as a not very promising conversation with our police and military officials regarding the wave of violence within the country, as well as the possibility of war looming on our borders. So we're just gonna keep going here and see how things unfold. Alright, this little thing's blinking down here. I don't know why, so we're gonna open it and check it out. Let's see here. So we have 2 orange dots. Okay. So, our newest problem is a nationwide revolt. Shit. There are violent protests happening across the country due to recent events. If we don't contain the situation, it will do great harm to our country. No shit. Okay. Diplomacy here. Diplomatic pressure. Sordland is under noticeable pressure from Rumberg through reduction in diplomatic staff and the closure of a key consulate. So that might be an issue, but discussed that briefly last time out. Alright, so let's start with the newspapers like usual here. We have 6 from this time. Alright, starting with Sordland today. Rumors of infrastructure projects. Anonymous sources have reported to Sordland today that several government officials have invited construction companies to meetings regarding a new major infrastructure project. If true, this is great news. Infrastructure in Sordland is lacking heavily needed investment. We hope that very qualified and experienced companies like Underhall Construction win the bid. Okay, so this goes back to episode 3, I believe, when we were talking about either building a railway, like a high-speed railway, or helping to build some infrastructure in some of the more rural parts of the country. And if I remember right, we opted, well, actually this kind of helps reinforce that. We opted for the infrastructure project over the railway system. Alright, Lockhaven Times. Gang violence claims young girl's life. A 15-year-old girl was shot to death in Narbel as she walked her dog a few blocks away from her apartment. The police said the shooting, which occurred in an area affiliated with the gang Coronelli, was a reckless act of violence, and the victim was not the target. The 15-year-old was shot about 4:45 p.m., right before she was returning home. A man who witnessed the event told police the shooters yelled gang slogans at him on the street before he heard someone fire at least 10 shots, sources said. He later saw the victim had been hit and called the authorities. Our sources report that the local police force of the region is understaffed and overworked, which adds to the current bleak situation. So that's just piling on to what we were discussing in the last episode with our police officials. Alright, Radical. Back to the communist newspaper. 1927, never again. I was there when General Luderin and Ricard clashed in the plains outside of Holsword, when the armies of the Swedish people killed each other. I was there when Colonel Sol won the war after bombarding cities with Swedish civilians inside them. We saw this great nation fall into bloodshed and chaos. We thought that we learned our lesson and formed a new republic, but one man's idea became the idea of the state, and we allowed it to be forced upon us. We were a generation who lived with Tarkin Sol for most of their lives. However, this generation is different. Our kids have not experienced civil war or martial law. This generation is born in a changing time. We cannot allow the same conditions to return. We cannot forget when General Luderin declared martial law in 1927, when his tanks rolled and murders took place. Those tanks cannot roll again. Bombs cannot fall again. Freedoms cannot be suspended again. 1927, never again. It's a nice poignant little article. Alright. The real truth behind economic crisis. We've all seen this scenario play before. Large corporate businesses time and time again receive money from the government under the disguise of helping the economy. But what about the people? Many of the neglected regions still do not have electricity or fresh water in their homes, and they are the lucky ones. There's a growing housing crisis and people are on the streets begging for food in the year 1954. It is high time that money is invested in us, the people of Sordland, instead of armchair millionaires in our luxurious villas. You know, although I don't want to be a communist leader, that's not a bad point. But we'll we'll see what happens. Hopefully some of these infrastructure changes we're attempting will help with some of these issues here. Alright, let's move on to The Economist. Underhall Construction, once again, number 1. Underhall Construction was once again picked as the number 1 construction company of the year by their reputable statistics Swordland. This was the 11th time the company was selected for the top spot in a row since Chris Shar was appointed as CEO. Veteran industry leader Shar congratulated the employees first and foremost in a private company meeting held in a luxurious report in Erlery. He also mentioned the recent addition of Heart of Swordland Organization's CEO, Marcel Caronti, to the board of advisors helped immensely in this great achievement. At The Economists, we think now is a great time to invest in Underhall Construction, as the current year's projection already shows a 13% increase in growth compared to last year. Alright, Geopolitico. I think this is the first time we've gotten an article from them. Rumburg closes consulate. Rumburg has closed down its consulate in Swordland, one of the few East Mercopan nations to have diplomatic ties with the Northern Kingdom. This comes right after the deployment of Rumburgian troops near the northern borders of Swordland. Rumburgian officials cite political unrest and uncertainty as the main reason for the closure, while raising concerns over security in the country. In Lockhaven, a diplomatic source said the Rumburgian flag has been lowered overnight and that staff embassy were expected to leave Swordland on Friday or Saturday. Many Lockhaveners were shocked as the 120-year-old Rumburg consulate closed. Dozens of citizens with Rumburgian relatives went out to protest against this action in the afternoon. It was not clear if the embassy closure was temporary or permanent, signaling a break in diplomatic ties which date from 1923. Our editors see this situation as a further deterioration of relations between Swordland and Rumburg. This can be easily regarded as a one-sided provocation from the north. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, because I'm like, yeah, sure, there's plenty of political unrest and uncertainty in the capital, but at the same time, you're massing soldiers on the border and then you close your embassy. That's not a good look. So, alright, let's see what's going on up here in Vesord. United Cantana Embassy helped protesters. Around midnight, Red Youth protesters clashed with the young swords at the Vesord city center, resulting in many injuries. The counter-protesters were cornered in the front of the United Cantana Embassy after they were pushed back by the police. The embassy opened its doors and Red Youth members escaped inside. The police are still waiting outside the building for the return of Red Youth members. So, the communist country that we've got issues with is offering political asylum to terrorists, basically. That's kind of what I'm gathering out of that. That's not good either. Okay, we're going to start with the report here, and then we'll hit the story beats. Arcasia develops first intercontinental ballistic missile. Intelligence reports that Arcasia has successfully completed the Missile 4, an intercontinental ballistic missile which has the estimated capability to accurately destroy targets at thousands of kilometers range. Arcasia missile capabilities have significantly increased, posing a threat to territories that are further away from Western Mercopa. Okay. Well, as far as I know, we don't have military issues with Arcasia, so hopefully that doesn't become an issue. But if they brought it up, it's probably going to be something that could happen, depending on what route we take, what route we wind up taking here. All right. So let's react to the unrest. Okay. The political situation around the country has escalated. Chief strategist Lucien Galad has prepared several action plans we can execute. What will we do to address the intensifying political climate? Let's see, so we can call for restraint on national television, visit affected towns in person, label all protesters as traitors, expand the police by deploying all recruits in training, or reject the plans. Let's see, that's a tough choice here. See, I'm thinking the best option is going to be this is a tough one. We don't want to reject the plans. That sounds like a bad idea. Expanding the police doesn't sound like a bad idea, but if it's just sending out recruits, that's not really going to help the situation because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Labeling protesters as traitors, that just sounds like some USSR type bullshit that's just going to piss everyone off. So it's got to be one of these two. Calling for restraint's probably not going to do anything, though. And visiting the affected towns probably won't do anything either. This is a tough one. Alright, I'm going to try visiting the affected towns in person. Maybe showing that the government is taking an active interest in what's going on will do some good. I don't know. We're going to give it a try. I'm probably going to get assassinated, but that's alright. We'll see what happens here. Oh, got another news article. Alright. The Whole Sword Post. President Rain talks to protesters. President Anton Rain visited towns around Greater Holsword and Grunny regions, which were heavily affected by the protests and riots that popped up around the country, triggered by the death of Circus. We've seen talking to the protesters and listening to the concerns of the citizens. This sends a powerful message to Sworders citizens that the government is walking among them and listening to their problems. Holsword is desperately trying to restart Swordland's economy after the recession, and this political unrest is not helping, said a Sworders scholar and professor of law at Holsword State University in Holsword. Okay, well that's exactly the message I was hoping that would portray, so maybe that's a good thing. At the very least, we didn't get shot in the street somewhere yet. So, let's do our end of the day meeting here. It was late in the evening. The Maroon Palace was finally getting somewhat quiet when I returned to my office at the top. I eagerly approached my chair and sprawled out on it. It had been an exhausting day, just like every day since I took office. Just lean back and relax. I stretched out my arms, leaned back in my chair, and took a deep breath. Holsword's skyline was daunting, but beautiful. I glanced downwards out the window and saw Serge and the guards waiting for me by the main gate. I heard a couple of knocks at the door. My secretary, Livia Zuno, entered. Mr. President, Mr. Tusk is here to see you. You had a meeting with the Lothar spokesman. I'm so sorry for not giving you proper notice. Don't worry about it. Thank you for understanding. After a moment, Mr. Tusk swaggered into the room. I'd met Swordland's most prominent businessman once or twice, but never alone. He had large jowls, blindingly shiny shoes, and the air of someone who is used to getting his way. Anything to drink, Mr. Tusk? Water? Whiskey?
Cognac. Preferably from before you're born, sweetheart.
I'll check the supply room. Olivia backed out of the office, shooting me an apologetic look as she did so. Walter hung up his hat, which I could see was lined with mink. He fixed me with a long, hard stare that broke into a toothy grin. This dude's gonna be a total douchebag, isn't he?
Good evening, Mr. President. I'm here to congratulate you.
We both sat down.
My business partners and I wish you a successful term as a leader of our nation.
Thank you, Mr. Tusk.
I had no chance to say this at the ball with all the panic. But we are very much looking forward to working with you.
Likewise.
I'd like to build a profitable relationship between us. That being said, there are some concerns of mine and the people I represent, which I'd like to take this opportunity to clear up.
I'm listening.
The ruined state of the economy in Swordland has influenced everyone. The recession hit all of us hard.
Walter pulled out a box of cigars from his jacket.
And these brought from Lesbia, the best cigars in the whole damn continent. Would you like to try one?
Yeah, fuck it. Grabbed one out of the pack. Walter lit it up with his large engraved lighter.
Now we're talking. A man who knows pleasure and business.
Walter grabbed himself a cigar and lit up as well. We looked out at the city scenery as we both puffed away.
I heard that you purchased stock from Armadine Industries in Arcasia. Smart buy. They develop new gadgets that are gonna be profitable.
With risk comes reward. I expect a very good return on investment.
You have a keen eye for business. I'll buy a couple thousand shares too to expand my portfolio. Hopefully the investment pay off for both of us, President.
His eyes wandered away for a moment.
You are having a good start to the term for sure, besides the recent troubles. Glad that you've decided to promote the free market, which is the only thing that can get us out of this mess.
Let's see. I took favorably to my economic team's advice.
You have talented economists like Mr. Hole in the cabinet, so you made the right choice. There are many other avenues where we could work together.
He grinned.
The highway investment is a good call, but there's more to gain in the high-speed rail, especially for business logistics.
Okay, so that's what it was. We invested in building up the highways out in the rural areas as opposed to the high-speed rail. Okay. Yeah, the island region was in dire need of investment.
The most important goal is to divert investments where most profits can be made for the Treasury. We can be close allies. The group can help you get Sordland out of the recession, which would be the key problem to solve in your term and could even determine your re-election. Let's start with a gesture of goodwill. Soon the investment project contract will be awarded to one of the three main contenders.
He pulled a check out of his pocket and slid it towards me on the table. My personal bank details were listed on it, with a deposit of 500,000 Sordish Ren ready to be transferred. It's just 6 months of a president's salary.
If the contract is somehow awarded to Underhall Construction, they would not only work hard and deliver, but also do it on time. What do you think, Mr. Rain? Wouldn't that be good?
Put his index finger on the check. There was a noise by the door. Olivia Zuno was standing there, holding a tray with a bottle and 2 glasses.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Tusk, but all I could find was 1942 Savini. I hope that's acceptable.
She quickly put the tray on my desk and walked out. Tusk eyed her as she left.
Remind me to visit your office more often. Now, where were we? Do we have a deal?
Let's see. Do I want to take a bribe? Try to take an even bigger bribe. Or just get pissed off. I mean, honestly, if they're the biggest construction company in the country, they'll probably get the contract anyway. But I'm not taking the bribe. No, I'll make my own decision. Walter sighed and put the check away, putting it in his pocket. Thank you for the visit, nonetheless.
It was sure good to share opinions. We'll meet again in the future, for sure. Oh, I almost forgot. Please say hello to Mr. Cronty for me.
He smiled.
Have a good evening, Mr. President.
Walter stood up, grabbed his jacket, and made his way towards the door. Closed the door behind him. I gathered my things, prepared to finally head home. As I walked out, I noticed Olivia still there, covering up her typewriter for the evening.
If I may be so bold, Mr. President, did you accept his offer?
Of course I didn't. How could she even ask me that?
The other girls have told me about all kinds of dealings that went on during the Alfonso administration. I wasn't sure if you were that kind of president.
Yeah, I can either be a nice guy or a douchebag. I most certainly am not. She and I took a moment to look out over the lights of the city before heading to the elevators. Oh, wow, okay, there's a lot of shit going on now. Okay, well, let's circle around. So we got like 3 exclamation points, a couple more notes, and some more news. So let's read the newspapers. Alright, the Whole Sword Post. Keebner suggests expanding executive powers. The leader of the NFP, Casaro Keebner, has suggested that the new constitution should expand executive powers, adding fuel to the debate over the possibility of reforming the 1929 constitution. He pointed out the current dire situation of Swordland, emphasized the need for strong leadership. The current constitution suggests the division of executive power between the cabinet and the president. It has no immunity before the courts for acts of treason and unconstitutional behavior during office.
The system suggested by the NFP, the president would have absolute immunity before the courts, and it is the president who would chair the cabinet. It is not clear yet whether this suggestion would spark further debate in the Reform Committee, the PFJP, and the USP. The PFJP proposal had suggested that the president should have no presidential decrees, might result in the abolishment of the assembly, and take the country to an early election, despite the independents' counter-proposal to give similar power to the parliament to take down the president. That detail was not shared with the press in yesterday's press conference. Alright, Lockhaven Times. Reform demands gain popularity. Demands for reform are gaining more popularity than ever. The latest public opinion reports show that the majority of the Swedish people want changes in the governmental structures that were established after Tarkin Sol's military coup in 1929. The public trust in the Grand National Assembly and the Supreme Court is at an all-time low. While rumors of reform talks are coming out of the Assembly, it seems unlikely that without complete unity, none of the parties would be able to lead such a proposal. In order to change the Constitution, the proposal must collect at least 150 signatures and then reach the needed 166 votes. If the proposal passes the Assembly, it is still subject to another voting in the Supreme Court as well as judicial review, which still stands as the biggest obstacle before the parties. And 2 more articles from the Radical. Workers' Party Solidarity March. The pro-minority Workers' Party of Bludia rally in the Bludish majority city of Suzerain attracted a large audience. The gathering was heavy on flags and banners, whipping in the rain and chill wind as the gatherers declared solidarity with Bernard Circus. Among the speakers at the rally was Monsoon Leek, a Bludish member of Assembly who is standing as leader of the independents in the Grand National Assembly. Although not a member of the WPB, he was a leading figure of the event. "We will again foil this war plot that was set up by the Solist ideology," he said, in reference to the series of conflicts and bloodshed during Tarkin Sol's Tarkin Sol's term as president, which claimed thousands of Bludish lives. "We will come out of this tunnel of conflict. We will not only win against discrimination, we will win the truth. We have altogether foiled this trick of polarization. Our songs of peace, which spread from Izam, will ring out even stronger all over Swordland." Leak added in reference to the Izam incident of 1933, which triggered Tarkin Sol's persecution of Bludish minorities and the formation of the militant organization Bludish Freedom Front. Alright, well, what's the Izam incident? The Izam incident was a bloody protest in 1933, largely regarded as one of the foundational moments of the Bludish movement. In 1933, the Sol Dam project was proposed as a long-term solution to Burgess and Swordland's energy problem began its construction. The construction site was home to an old Bludish village called Izam, which was planned to be evacuated and razed to open way for the dam. Okay. So the locals protested, the military showed up. The military killed the entire group of protesters in order to burn the village to the ground and build the dam. Unfortunately, that's not entirely a rare occurrence. Government likes to claim land to build river and dam projects all over the place. Alright, the other article here is Bludish citizens targeted. 20 Bludish citizens were attacked by a group of people suspected to be members of Young Swords during their peaceful protests to support Bernard Circus. The group was overwhelmed, and the local police forces couldn't reach the protesters to protect them amidst the chaotic crowd. The attackers ran away without getting caught. 11 of the victims were hospitalized with critical injuries. I mean, I guess it's good nobody was killed, but more violent protests is not exactly a good thing. Right, my journal's up here blinking. Oh, cool. I didn't actually know this was a thing. Nice. That would have been helpful to remember where I left off earlier. Okay. Yeah, free market economy, highway infrastructure projects. Working with reformists, visited towns affected by political violence, and rejected a bribe. Sweet. Okay. Alright, let's read this report from Honorca here. Local police working with nationalists. One of our agents acting as a Young Swords member had an encounter with 2 members of the local police force in Honorca. Alson Bolar and Vikneji. Whatever.
According to the report, the policeman tried to bribe the agent to burn down a store that belongs to a known Communist Party member and to instigate further violence. We have detained the policeman on charges of corruption. Fan-damtastic. Okay. So, I guess let's move up here to Einland and see what's going on here. Finalization of the H3 highway contracts. After driving through the cliffside roads, we arrived in Lenkurg. There, cheerful citizens greeted us, and the local government officials escorted us to the city hall. Here, a significant meeting about the H3 project would take place. Several construction companies sent their representatives to the city hall. Even though Gus Monsher couldn't make the meeting, I had Simon Hole and Lilius Groff by my side.
Yeah, besides starting our economic recovery, the travel time by road will drop by more than a half, Mr. President.
This project will improve the island region. I have lived with these people and seen them suffer.
I trust your plan, Simon.
I'm glad to hear that. We should be able to slow down the recession if we finish this project successfully.
Positive financial outcomes are expected. According to my sources, this can lift many out of poverty in these areas.
Do you need additional support?
Not as of right now. However, things might come up if the project doesn't go according to plan.
Thank you for the offer.
Simon searched the documents he was holding and found the one he was looking for.
I have the overview of the companies right here.
Simon handed the files over to me. I looked at the files. 3 corporations were listed. The Swordfish State Corporation, Underhall Construction, and Taurus Holding. Wrong one.
I reviewed them. I'll take the liberty of asking the mayor of Aure to give his opinion on the matter.
Which corporation should we talk about first?
How about the Swordfish State Corporation?
The respected Swordfish State Corporation, also known as the SSC, was founded in 1891. It is the main state corporation tasked with running the day-to-day construction services of our country.
The SSC is one of our most trusted and honorable companies. They have served us a long time. I have worked with them on several occasions.
It goes against your election promises moving away from a state-planned economy. Most importantly, the Swordfish State Corporation lacks a modern way of thinking, resulting in slower construction. A simple look at the regional highway shows us the problem.
They do have a wealth of knowledge and infrastructure, though.
I don't agree with the negative statements for the SSC. Their record clearly shows completed contracts with thousands of employees who have more than 20 years of experience.
According to the preliminary calculations of the SSC, they would need more resources to finish a project of this size.
I'm on the fence about the SSC. What about Underhall Construction?
The real estate and construction giant was founded in 1925. They expanded in the economic boom of the 30s. Picking this corporation would fit our market economy policy. The CEO of Underhall is Chris Shar, the mayor of Conrad. He sold half his shares a few years ago.
I had to work with Underhall Construction before in Horsord. They took several contracts for the Central Station renovation and left much to be desired. H3 projects shouldn't be left to them.
I'd like to hear your thoughts, Simon.
I think they have been doing relatively well in the private sector, where they are dominating the construction industry with successful projects. Nonetheless, they treated their workers below our working standards in the Horsord Central Station contract, which is troubling.
You need to be able to trust the corporation. This is a base requirement for the contract.
They indeed did work on 3 significant infrastructure projects, but during the station project we had to extensively negotiate with the union as to not lose a serious labor laws violation case.
Underhall has specifically mentioned their solid track record and highlighted that the cost of the project could be more than expected for a project of this scale, but finished on time.
I'm not sure about them either. What about Taurus Holding?
Taurus Holding was founded in 1946 and is owned by the entrepreneur Garrett Fies. It is a new holding company whose subsidiaries use cutting-edge technology from Arcasia to reduce construction costs and prices. They are known to provide for their workers who are part of the labor union of Sortland.
There are other things Taurus does very well, like providing consultants for the state corporations, but I can't vouch for the infrastructure construction at all.
Why should we pick them?
It would fit our election promises of switching to a free market economy. Awarding contracts to privately owned corporations would be a step in the right direction. Taurus has completed fewer projects than the other companies. However, they are slightly faster and cheaper. It won several awards internationally for being one of the fastest growing and advanced companies.
The innovative aspect's refreshing, especially if they can deliver. They're only involved in smaller scale regional projects. This does improve the capabilities for large undertakings and more complex.
The project manager from Taurus Holdings mentioned they would be able to finish the project with the allocated funding. They're the only company who found the budget sufficient, making them a cheaper alternative.
Well, Taurus is definitely worth considering. It's time to make a decision about which company to award the H3 highway contract to. We're going to go with Taurus. I like the fact that they will be able to finish under our budget, or within our budget, I guess. And that they work with the unions, and sounds like they have a better track record in treating their people properly. So, we'll go with Taurus Holding.
Good that we're staying consistent to our economic strategy.
Simon signed a certain section of the dossier and fixed his glasses.
Very well, Mr. President. Contract will be awarded to Taurus Holding.
Wish the outcome of the meeting was different, but at the end of the day, the success of the project is what matters.
The company will be notified today, and the construction work will begin immediately after.
I think we're off to a good start.
My expectations for a grand opening ceremony are late next year.
I better get back to work then. Thank you. This concludes the meeting. The meeting ended, and we spent the remainder of the day attending events in Lenkirk. It was nice to enjoy the natural beauty of Island and to eat some good fish. Alright, so now we've got this cool little thing here saying that the highway is under construction. So that's nice. Alright, let's check out the news, probably talking about the highway. Yep. So, Whole Sword Post, construction begins for H3 highway. Taurus Holding has been awarded a 2-year contract for an extensive infrastructure project. Subsequent design and construction work is part of the H3 highway expansion project in Swordland. In addition to the geotechnical ground investigation, Taurus will provide the design of all civil structures, including ground retaining walls and earthworks for the highway. Taurus said it could build the line much stronger than planned and at a much lower cost, according to a letter seen by The Economists. But the USP MP Albin Clavin had warned letting Taurus build H3 would be extremely questionable. The H3 project involves the widening of hundreds of kilometers of existing motorway between Lockhaven and Arvory, including an open tunnel nearly 3 kilometers long. The highway will pass from Lenkirk to Arvory and later will be expanded to the Agnolian capital, Stalport. Swordland Today, they also don't like our choice. The risky highway project. The government has announced a new mega infrastructure project to help alleviate the symptoms of the recession. The Minister of Economy announced the launch of one of the most contested construction projects in Swordland, a new highway from Lockhaven to the Agnolian capital, Stalport. He said this project would cross the poorest areas of Swordland, developing the region, improving foreign trade, and increasing access to employment. The contract for the project was given to an inexperienced company named Taurus Holding, with the decision of the President. Mega projects, such as the construction of ports, transport lines, including railways, motorways, and power plants, typically cost billions of SR. They're difficult to manage due to their scale, high levels of complexity, and substantial impact on communities, the environment, and state governments. The decision of such a vital project to be given to a company like Taurus should not have been taken so easily, as they lack the large-scale experience, the organizational capacity to complete such a big task. Island has long been neglected in his region and was in need of serious investments in its infrastructure. While this is positive news, it is doubtful this project is worth the money and the time it will consume. A lot of fucking Debbie Downers in this country, jeez. Alright, so we got another report from Narbel. The Ministry of Defense reports that the situation along the border is getting tense. Rumberg's Southern Army was sighted training close to our borders and did not respond after we issued a radio message. Chief of the Armed Forces, General Kruger, reports to have increased patrolling duties along the northern border to signal readiness. We're trying to gear up for war here. Okay, so let's go to Conriat. Alright. Meeting with Marcel Caronti in the presidential state car. Nice. We're headed up to the meeting location set up by Marcel Caronti. The motorcade is made up of the most confidential and trustworthy team. After a few hours of driving along River Eskel, we took a turn before entering Conrads. The darkness started setting in as we drove up to a hill. I looked outside. I could see giant stadium lights at the hilltop far away in the distance. It looked like a massive complex.
We are nearing our destination.
We arrived, and the big iron gates of the country club opened. It was huge and outright extravagant. The main building, inspired by lesbian architecture, was lit from all sides. It was rather chilly. I was approached by Peter Vexton and Lucien Galad. I hope the journey was comfortable. Wasn't bad. Look forward to this meeting.
I'm sure it'll be worth our time. He's a Cronty after all. Let's get personal.
Aye, let's. We entered the main building. After opening the marble-engraved wooden door, we were greeted by two tall women. The receptionist led us to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window looking outside at the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a quick look at us both. He was a really handsome man with fair hair. He walked toward me with his hand reached out for a handshake. I shook his hand. He had a firm grip.
It is such a pleasure to meet you in person, Mr. Cronty. I appreciate your efforts to reach out for mutually beneficial friendship.
Hey, thanks for hosting us. I admired your father very much. May he rest in peace. Ah, welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Vice President. He was indeed a great man. Please, accept our condolences. We are saddened. It's a weird way to word that. We would have been happy to hear this from you, Mr. President. It's time to look forward. Let's talk about a bright future. Yes, there's much to discuss. Believe it or not, I've been a secret admirer of your political success. I find your quick rise to power was shockingly well executed. The admiration goes both ways. Marcel gently pointed at the seats. We sat around a gigantic table. Before speaking, he knocked on wood. The past month has been tumultuous, to say the least. I'm glad you and your family were unharmed at the shooting. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the late 20s. I still remember when my father took us out of the country and became too dangerous in London. They were startled, but the important thing is they're safe and sound. Of course, that's all that matters. No family should suffer from tragedy ever again. We've had enough of that. Well, I am known to be a straightforward person. So let me get to the point without wasting your valuable time. It was during the Alfonso campaign when I was struck by what you have done within the party. Marcel started to look at one of the paintings on the wall.
Sit down and get to the damn point.
I'm just going to give Lucien a puzzled look. I looked at Lucien Galad. Lucien looked back at me and shrugged. Then he raised his eyebrows, something he usually did when he was curious. Marcel pointed his finger at me. You said we'll transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate is a way of doing things, and I don't want them to change. So, I want to cooperate with you. Please, explain further. You might have the people's support now, Mr. President, but what happens when you make mistakes? Everybody makes mistakes. Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
Let's hear his point, Vice President.
Being a president of this country means having many enemies. Enemies that resort to anything to bring you down. Let's say these enemies cause a scandal or leak sensitive information from administration. These would be destructive when they are released. If they were released. Continue. Assume that the articles would actually protect your integrity no matter what. Try to imagine how up to 5 million people I reach will not lose faith in you. And what do you want in return? I want 2 things, Mr. President. Number 1 is a guarantee from you that the Reign administration won't meddle in HOS affairs no matter what happens. Alright, first off, what was HOS? HOS, I don't remember. Heart of Swordland is a multi-industry corporation with worth tens of billions of SR and is part of the Big Four, the largest companies in Swordland. So they have a media monopoly. Okay, that makes sense. Number 2 is a simple gentleman's favor for the future. Let me prove my services to you first. I'm sure you won't disapprove when the time comes. Yeah, and how do I know that I can trust you? My circle advised against this. They don't even know we're meeting, Mr. President. We both put ourselves at risk here, but I'm willing to trust you. Question is, are you willing to trust me and accept this offer?
What do you think about this, Lucian? Lucian leaned to my ears and whispered,
I think it's a good deal. He's right. We will need the media support. With his newspapers and channels on our side, we can dodge a lot of bullets. The one thing that bothers me, though, is his favor request. We do not know what it is, and he could ask for something that could point fingers at us.
Marcel interrupted us.
So, do we have a deal?
Yeah, we have a deal.
Happy to hear that. You can contact me personally through this number. As soon as you know that a story against you will break, please call me and it will be taken care of. I hope you will uphold your end of the bargain as well.
Yep, a deal is a deal. It will be upheld.
A man of his word. Excellent. We will meet again. Goodbye. Thank you for your time, Mr. Caronti.
Got an achievement, apparently. Alright, return the whole sword. We returned the whole sword. Nice. Okay. Well, there's another thing going here. It's more on the country overview, but this video is getting kind of long, so I'll go ahead and cut it here today. Yeah, so next time we'll pick up with this economic relief plan. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.